Coming from North Macedonia, traveling to more than 58 countries, she eventually decided to stay in Berlin and build her life here.
Her mindset, feminine energy, and never give up motto shaped her career. Meet our guest, Darinka Borovska.
So I visited 58 countries.
58.
58,
Wow.
yes. Never give up. Know why you came here and keep pushing no matter what. Because I'm so convinced in what I'm doing, the motivation comes internally. The energy comes internally. You are just naturally motivated. People feel the natural conviction, the natural motivation that you have, the natural desire to help people. And that reflects automatically in business results. If you are internally misaligned with values, with what you want to do, where you want to go, you can be in a village in Switzerland and still be burnout. And you can be in a big city as Berlin, New York, London, and still be in your best version of yourself.
Welcome back to another episode of How I Built My Life in Berlin. Today, we're diving into the topic that a lot of professionals, experts, and founders struggle with. And this is how to build a successful career without burning out and giving up on yourself along the way. Joining us today is Darinka Borovska, a former project manager, but now she helps leaders to grow both mentally and in their business. So we are really happy to welcome you here today.
Thanks, Violeta. Thanks, David, for the invitation. It's my absolute pleasure to be here and to share my personal experience on how to build successful life and career abroad without burning out. We will see about that. I guess burnout is the natural step of moving abroad, but there are ways to manage and make the best out of it. So yeah, thank you for the invite, and I'm happy to share all of the insights.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in your work and both in your life, you combine physical and mental approaches to stay stable. And you also mentioned a lot the 6-month journey through Asia that had the greatest impacts on your career. But for many people here in Berlin, especially in the big cities in tech environments, Asia trips, retreats may sound a bit mysterious. So may you please pull back the curtain of it and say what was really happening on those retreats?
Exactly. Thank you for starting with this question. It's one of my favorite topics. So just to give some context, I'm in Berlin for 7 years now, and I was in Asia several occasions of couple of months, of which the last time I was there for 4.5 consecutive months. I was doing different type of retreats, from meditation to yoga teacher training to somatic therapy. And basically, it was very mysterious before I went there. But I was in emotional and mental blockages, not to say burnout or existential crisis, that I just told to myself, I believe anything right now, I believe miracles, I believe whatever is unbelievable, especially for us in the Western world. And then having to spend time in Thailand for so long, I get to know how the Vedic philosophy is looking to life, but also on body, on emotions, on subconscious mind. And it's after you understand it, it's actually not mysterious at all, because it's a neuroscientific way of looking into subconscious mind, how you process emotions, how you store emotions, how you deal with daily life, with daily challenges. And basically, the most transformative experience for me was the 10-day silent Vipassana retreat, where for 10 days, you don't have any distractions. Your phone is in the locker. You don't have any books, any journals, anything with you. And basically, you're just meditating for 10 hours a day. And having the opportunity to be away from all the external distractions and just sit with myself and understand more about myself, that was the starting point when I started all the inner work and all the other activities where we combine physical, mental, and emotional activities to basically overcome all the emotional challenges, overcome burnout, identity crisis. So yeah, basically behind the scenes, behind the curtains, there's nothing mysterious. It's all scientific way of how we look the mind. It's just that we in the Western world, for us, that's so unfamiliar that nobody even dares to go there. But yeah, I was there. It helped me to transform my life. So I'm telling you, there's nothing mysterious and everyone should do it.
Yeah, thank you. Now it sounds less than from another reality for us as well. Maybe you have a certain framework how to transform this inner peace and the insights you gain through this meditation and retreats into some business results.
Exactly. So For me, the biggest transformation that happened is that I was able to overcome some of the personal challenges I had, some stored emotions from the past, some failures, because I also built startups before. They failed, they didn't succeed. I had failures also on personal level. So all of this had, we store as humans, the emotions, all of the failures, we store it in our body, but also we see ourselves as failure, which is not true. Our startup failed, but that doesn't mean that we're failures. But for me, this was so heavy in myself. I was seeing myself as failure, as I didn't achieve anything. And this was on the back of the mind and of the back of my emotions, like a gravity. In yogic terms, that's exactly how they describe it. As the gravity pulled the physical body down, all of these piled emotions and how we see ourselves is like gravity pulling us emotionally down, and the energy is going down, and therefore burnout happens. When you have complete internal misalignment of values, when you see yourself as failure or as someone who you're not, and that piles up so much that then we got this dark picture about ourselves, and then the results in business are not as we want because our internal reality is in conflict. And just to point out on the burnout, I did some research on these topics in the last months. I'm hooked on it. And there was a researcher from Harvard University that says burnout is not because of workload or because of we have much to do. Burnout happens when we have internal misalignment of values and of who we want to be and who we are now. Because as adults, we grow, we mature, our life goals change, our understanding of life changes, our relationship with ourselves and with the environment within us changes, and then it's normal that this internal misalignment happens. The important thing is that when this internal misalignment happens, when you are in identity crisis or in burnout, to understand and to reflect what happens inside so that you can overcome this challenge and then you basically evolve your identity to the next level. So for me, this happened. I did so much inner work, all of these retreats that I mentioned and some other activities, that I managed to release all the layers and all the failures and all of the past emotions, stored emotions that were just distorting my reality, how I see myself in the world. And after so much inner work, I completely shifted my identity to who I want to be. I connected with this. And then because I'm so convinced in what I'm doing, the motivation comes internally. The energy comes internally. You are just naturally motivated. People feel the natural conviction, the natural motivation that you have, the natural desire to help people. And that reflects automatically in business results. Because when you have this conviction, this motivation that comes from the inside, and when you connect it with this purpose, as everyone is talking about, then things just align and everyone feels the energy. So there's no direct correlation, one-on-one to business results. It's indirect correlation, indirect impact on your business once you are in your best version of yourself and aligned with your purpose.
I would like to know if the environment plays any role for burnout or not, or saying more precisely, if the city or where you are living plays a role. Let's say, is there any high chance that a person or a professional will have a burnout in Berlin rather than being somewhere in Malaga?
That's a very interesting question. I think the obvious answer is yes. The city definitely plays a role. In big city. It's more stress, more opportunities, more FOMO, more challenges to deal with. While, for example, in Malaga, it's also different culture. It's not so big city, so you kind of feel more safe in more slow environment. So this is for sure true. However, I believe burnout is not fully 100% from external environment, comes from internal environment first. As I mentioned before, if you are internally misaligned with values, with what you want to do, where you want to go, you can be in a village in Switzerland and still be burnout, and you can be in a big city as Berlin, New York, London, and still be in your best version of yourself. So the environment plays a role for sure, but it's not the main factor. The main factor for burnout and identity crisis is internal values and internal misalignment as you mature and you grow in your life. And just to break one bit myth about burnout, it's totally normal to have burnout in your life, because this research that I researched from this researcher from Harvard, he said as kids, our brain is maturing, but we are still dependent on our parents, and we believe what our parents tell us. But as we live as the development of human is growing, and as we live the parenthood, and as we mature especially at university times, after university at work, how we see the world changes. We see it with our own eyes, not how our parents raised us or not how our culture raised us. We're starting to observe the world, we're starting to have understanding about the world, and we start to realize that what I understood about the world and myself, now it's very different. And while this understanding of the world happens, and then our values changes, our motivation, our goals, everything changes, and now suddenly we are in this internal conflict that I keep mentioning, that I know this is true. I should feel like this. I should want to be a doctor or engineer or lawyer, but I want to be an artist, or I want to be a musician, or I want to be an entrepreneur. And now you're in this internal conflict because what you've believed is true and what you want to do, or what you've understood that there's a possibility to even try if you want to do it, is different. And here is when this internal conflict happens, and this results in burnout or identity crisis. Once someone overcomes this, then this identity shift happens, and then, yeah, you are unstoppable.
While I was listening to you, I remembered the famous song, I Want to Break Free. And I think that all the inner work is actually about breaking free from fears, from some things that stops you. Yeah, and I would love to ask, maybe you have a quick practice that people who just moved abroad, just moved to Berlin, can implement on the spot to break free from their fears and to feel more mentally stable.
I wish there was a quick fix for this. I cannot say it quick fix, but it's something that can be done on a daily basis. And if it's done consistently, there's effect. What I would do, and what I recommend, is just write down everything, all of the worries. And when you write down, you get them out of your system, of your thinking. And then when you actually see them on paper, and when you see, okay, I need this, it doesn't sound less scary. Then once you have your worries, everything that comes on the mind, emotional, job-wise, document-wise, everything, write down. And then first there's a release that, okay, I'm not thinking about this now, I have them on my list. Then you can prioritize what is number one, what has to be done immediately, what can be postponed for next week, next month, or if there's someone else, I can ask to help me with this. And then basically when you have this, you kind of feel more in control in a way, and you kind of know what you need to do. So I was doing this at the beginning, and this helped me to stay in a way with decent mental stability, not to get breakdown at the first days. So this is one thing. And the second thing, what helps me when I try to practice as much as possible, is daily meditations. So 10 to 15 minutes, just sitting in quiet or with like guided meditations with headphones, and just try to connect with the body and see how you feel. If you feel like you need to rest, if you need feel to get hydration, sports, so whatever the body needs and whatever emotion you have, to feel it and to be aware, because our body is the biggest signal with what's happening with our life. And normally we tend to ignore it. We are raised to ignore emotions. We are raised to work hard, to not rest, because you're lazy if you rest. So that's like cultural upbringing, I believe. And with meditation, every day you kind of do check-in with yourself, and you understand your emotions, if you're tired, if you need to rest, whatever the body needs. And also emotionally, you understand if you need to process something, if you need to talk with someone, have those difficult conversations, or you basically do check-ins with yourself daily. I would recommend even maybe in the morning and in the evening. And this kind of gives the person, yourself, the ability to know about yourself more, what your body is telling, and then to try to act on time before you get burnout.
So moving to Germany, to Berlin, wasn't that easy in the beginning because you were not feeling also safe here. But Germany and Berlin gives also or provides also some advantages, or you had some advantages. Or my question would be: did you have or did you see some advantages of moving to Berlin that in the moment where when you were saying, again, is not like it's not safe, or it's not as I was imagining, these good moments were giving you a hope, or were saying, yes, it was true decision to come to Berlin?
I think when I was moving back in 2019, the IT bubble was booming. There were a lot of investments, new startups, and I have technical background and masters in entrepreneurship. So my profile was in a way very much demanded on the market. So I had zero challenges finding job, getting visa. Even back then, whoever remembers the times of 2018-19, you go to an event and you have 3-4 recruiters offering you job with all the benefits. So those I'm from those times. So, and that was giving me in a way hope and safety that there's nothing to worry about. Okay, you have a challenge with your bank account, no problem. It's delayed for 2 months. Then my visa was also delayed, the blue card when you come here, no problem. So you kind of know where you're going, why you came here, what's your goal, and you try to just stay laser focused on the goal while trying to see the challenges is something you have to handle momentarily. And this and because there were so many new startups opening, so many events, so many accelerator programs where I was somewhat part of, or in some capacity I was part of. So I was seeing the potential of the city. I was seeing how Berlin was growing both in startup and tech world. I was seeing all the opportunities that I didn't have back in Macedonia in terms of sports, culture, networking, building your career, traveling, learning new skills, which doesn't necessarily need to be professional, but also life skills. And then as I was seeing the growth, experiencing the growth, I always knew this was the right path and there was light at the end of the tunnel. There were a lot of tough moments, but everything was worth it. And I think when you move to a new city, normally people know what they move, they have a vision, they have a purpose, and just have this purpose at the back of your mind, or even on your vision board at the bed when you sleep, everywhere, and just every day remind yourself, it's hard, but it's gonna pass. I know why I'm here, and I'm just going to fulfill my purpose. Yeah.
Nice. And then end of 2019, beginning 2020, Corona. How me personally, that was a moment when I could use for myself, develop my own project, and I was concentrating on creating new programs, and I understand it wasn't a good time for a majority, but sometimes I was saying that was a time that I could use to develop myself also professionally. How was it for you? Was it challenging or was it positive for your moment?
So looking back, it was definitely positive. So the situation was I moved September 2019. My first contract with a startup founded by Lufthansa. So it was a travel startup, started 1st of October. And I was passing probation March or something. However, the lockdown happened mid-February. And then the company, because travel startup, it's locked down. They were unsure that for sure they were not going to get any customers, but it was unsure if Lufthansa gonna continue funding this startup. So they couldn't extend my contract. And then just 6 months in Berlin while I survived the winter, I managed to find a permanent apartment because I was in Airbnb before. I get my bank account, my Blaukarte, the identification was ready. I had all my furniture in the new apartment. Everything was sorted. And then I'm thinking, thank God, finally I can start living. And then Corona happens. And then my contract was terminated during probation. And I was like, okay, now again. Luckily, the IT market was booming back in Corona. So I managed to find a new position as product manager immediately. So I had no break in between, because also the visa is tied to your job at the first 1 year. So I was a little bit worried how that will play out, but it played out perfectly. So I had immediately a new role. And for me, Corona was a new perspective of world, because for first time after a very long time, I could stay at home and just stay with myself and do nothing or meditate. Because before I would always feel my schedule full, and I would have work, projects, activities, events where I attend or I speak, or some other project or something sports, some other activity. So basically I would always be on like 100%. And then in Corona, I actually had time to rest and think about myself, review the world from different perspective, think about the future, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. So it was definitely a great times that you have what I mentioned this time with yourself. I had the chance to start it there. And that's how my whole journey with going to Asia and starting meditation and yoga happened, because I had finally the chance to pause and to not have FOMO that I'm not doing anything, that I'm just at home and resting, and that's okay. So yeah, that was my Corona time, yeah.
So you are a traveler. You were studying in the UK. You've been to the US for a work and travel program. How many countries have you traveled in common?
So I visited 58 countries.
58.
58,
Wow.
yes, of which I lived in the US, as you mentioned, for 8 months. So 2 times for work and travel program. 1 year in the UK where I did my master's. 7 years now in Germany. And I've traveled cumulatively in Southeast Asia almost a year. And I was in Thailand for almost 5 months. So yeah, I can say I've lived in Southeast Asia. So yeah, that gives me quite a bit opportunity to zoom out and see the world from different perspective. So I definitely recommend traveling, yeah.
So I'm also a traveler, and I traveled to around 31 countries, but they were mostly in Europe. The farthest country I have visited is, or it's not country, it's let's say territory that belongs to France. If you know Réunion Island next to Madagascar.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah. What was the farthest place you have traveled?
Oof. I've been to Japan, if it counts. India, Maldives, those were far. And also on the other side, Cuba and Bahamas were far. Yeah.
On the other side, I have been in Curacao Island. It belongs to Netherlands. So everything that Europe, I was on on that countries and that place. As a traveler to traveler, like I have a question. What type of traveling do you prefer? Backpack or 5-star hotels, luxury? Well,
I
how
would
would this-
honestly, I would recommend everyone to try all of these experiences, because every different experience gives you different level of experience, of learnings, and you get to experience how is to travel with all of these different type of traveling, and how it's to experience to stay in hostel, how it's to experience in 5-star hotel, how it's to stay in maybe some local villages with the local inhabitants. So I've done all of it, from starting to backpacking, to staying in youth hostels, to staying in families, in remote villages, in Laos, in Cambodia, to having a stay in the top 500 luxury hotels in the world, from taking the Flixbus to taking business class. So I've tried everything. And I think the beauty of life is that you learn how to enjoy in all of this experience, and to learn that true fulfillment and happiness doesn't come from the hotel, how many stars it have or how luxury it is, but comes from the inside. The biggest learning for me that was the best time I had of all of these travels was in Laos with a family who basically had no income, and they were just growing their food. The kids was playing outside. The nature was beautiful. It was so peaceful. It was food, literally organic bio from the garden. And there you experience different level of peace, and you realize you don't need anything else to be happy. You just need to reconnect with yourself and the nature. So yeah, I prefer all of these travels, and I recommend all of those for different human experience.
You now is a founder of a High Achievement Club, and for many people, especially here in Berlin, high achievement determines in different ways. In which way it determines for you?
I think high achiever are people who never give up, regardless how tough something is, how challenging something is, and how impossible it may seem, and how crazy people are telling you that you are. So I would say this is one parameter. It goes well with the story we just talked about. The next thing for high achiever for me is someone who wants to build something extraordinary, something that is not a regular rat race 9 to 5 and just chill every day with front of YouTube or TV and has no impact to the society. Someone with vision, with conviction, who actually contributes something to the society and builds something that just a regular, very, very basic life by the book that the society tells us to live by. And so I would say the determination, the vision and the conviction, and that you actually doing it and achieving it and overcome all the challenges. I think that counts as high achiever, yeah.
What I notice when I compare people or students in Germany, in Berlin, and back in where I'm coming originally from, like Armenia, it's a post-Soviet country. I suppose North Macedonia is also was also a post-Soviet country. People or young people there are more determined, or they want since there are not so many opportunities, there are not so many chances in studying, in founding some companies and so on. This determination there is much higher than here in Germany, in Berlin, where you actually have so many opportunities to study, to have an exchange semester somewhere in another European country, in US, or to found a company, receive a funding for a company.
Exactly.
Don't you see that people here less motivated or determined than back in, let's say, North Macedonia? How would you say?
I would say definitely. I think how our countries are in development, let's say, the Baltic, Slavic, your country, that region, they are in development, the social system is not so strong. For example, you really feel that you kind of need to hustle to survive. I think that even that's for determination and motivation from one hand is good, but on the other hand, I think if you're constantly in survival mode, it's not healthy. So I think if you manage to find balance between survival and motivation, that's the best. And to your point that in Germany, people maybe have less determination if you don't have this survival instinct activated, if everything is sorted for you, if the government provides everything for you, you don't need to hustle too much. If your parents are, let's say, somewhat decently financially comfortable and they support you for a long time, you also don't have this drive and motivation. So I agree that this is definitely the case. However, we've seen successful high achievers and entrepreneurs from all countries and all cultures. So I think the culture is like one element that determines someone's mindset and coding inside. But you can break free from that from whichever country and you can just go laser focus on your goals and achieve what you want to achieve, yeah.
Actually, comparing the cultural backgrounds between the countries, North Macedonia used to be a part of former Yugoslavia, which has its socialistic legacy, and Berlin also carries some traces of its socialistic past. Did it make your coming here any easier for you, an adaptation?
That's very interesting observation, because I think there were some elements subconsciously that I felt that are smoothened up for me, or that I understand the culture, but that's very, very minor percent, because from my upbringing in Macedonia to Berlin, especially because Berlin is not pure Germany, it's a mixture of cultures, I would say. And there's still how the systems work, and especially different language. I still needed some months to readjust how I feel and the connection with the system, and to start feeling safe. So there is some elements from the culture that helped me to get more established, but mostly it was from scratch. Yeah.
Where do you live? In which part of Berlin? East or west?
So right now I live exactly in the middle between Mitte, Prenzlauer Berg and Friedrichshain, because I'm literally on the edge of Volkspark Friedrichshain. So I kind of have a little bit of mixture of all the vibes that you can have in Berlin. But if I can have my history, so I moved to Weissensee when I have come first time in Airbnb, because I had no idea that Weissensee is in the middle of nowhere. Because for me, I checked on Google Maps, it's like 20 minutes to Mitte, where my first office was.
Was it in summer or when you moved?
In September, okay, so it was end of summer.
You still could swim there.
I don't remember if I swam. I think no. But I was saying, where do you stay? I said, oh, this Weissensee. I said, yes, there. They're like, what are you doing there? I was like, living, I don't know. So from there, I moved to Boxy with a musician, like VG. He was a very famous musician and he was a friend of a colleague. So I randomly ended up living with a musician in the VG. Then from there, I was in Mitte, and that's where my career started picking up. So I could afford moving to Mitte in like Neubau, in super renovated apartment, all the best. Then I moved to, the contract was ending. I moved to Neukölln because I took over a contract from another friend. And then contract ended, I moved here. So I actually covered pretty much all the areas except Charlottenburg and that part, super west. So I would say I was mostly central and east, yeah.
So you have experienced Berlin in its finest.
I have experienced Berlin in the finest. When I came, I didn't know about Weissensee. Then I was super happy to live at Boxy because it's Boxy, and I was like just starting in Berlin, and I was like, cool. And then from there to Mitte was either level up. But then from Mitte to Neukölln was like you moved in different city. But I'm happy that I had a chance to live in Neukölln because those stories and the memories I have there are probably I'm gonna tell them my grandchildren because there were really good stories from those times. Yeah.
You lived in different parts of Berlin, and I lived just always in the Mitte. I was traveling or due to work to some other districts, and for me, Berlin is very diverse. You, as a person who experienced living in different districts of Berlin, how would you describe each of the districts? Are they different from each other, or they just look like different, however they are similar?
I would say they're very different. Each neighborhood gives its own vibe, its own how the people behave, dress, look, greet each other. The architecture also gives vibes because of the west and east that we have. This division, you can feel the difference a lot. Also, some areas have more people from abroad. They have brought their own culture. For example, Neukölln, you can't say it's Berlin. It's there's mixture of cultures and how people show their products in the store, how people behave in streets. There's also a lot of garbage on the streets compared to some other districts, let's say Charlottenburg, where we feel the Western influence. It's completely different. And I actually wasn't realizing this a lot because you're living and it becomes normal to you. But after I moved last year to Volkspark Friedrichshain, and then I had to go to Neukölln for like some meeting. And then just driving by Sonnenallee on my bike, I remembered, I was like, now I see how different it is. So I would say definitely it's different. And for someone who is young and moving to Berlin, try everything. It's every district is its own story. So yeah.
Do you have now a list of your favorite to-go places in every area?
I would say Boxy area is kind of my favorite because you have the vibe, you have cafe, you have restaurant, you have all the restaurants you can have, you have quick bite, you have the park where people just sit on the grass and just have a drink or have a nice conversations. So there the vibe is just very open, very free. People are dressing what they want. So it's like a city, or not city, district of freedom. That's how I feel it there, especially because I lived there a couple years ago. Then, what else is my favorite? I would say the area around Prince Albert, also with this more homey neighborhood where there's a lot of
more for parents with their kids.
Exactly, so it feels like it's more calm, and also the cafes, the restaurants give the vibe, and people are more, as you said, more family oriented. So it's a different vibe.
Where do you prefer to have spend your free time, entertainment?
So I do a lot of sports. I was a former athlete. I don't know if I mentioned. I was competing on national level when I...
So here where your determination also comes, would you say?
I would say once an athlete, always an athlete. Oh, I would look in the comment for this. Once an athlete, always an athlete. I think that's where the drive and determination and the discipline comes, because I believe discipline is the base for every success. You cannot have success if you don't have discipline. And discipline is just the base. You have some layers on top to have to be successful, high achiever. But there is where my determination comes from, and the energy, and like laser focus on the goals. I spend, I would say 90% of my free time on sports, either horse plays, so either Ostkreuz or in Potsdamerplatz. And I do everything from gym to yoga to sauna, the full package. Vabali is one of my favorite sauna places because you can really detach your mind there and just do sauna. Actually, it's interesting too when you ask me how I combine physical, mental, and emotional. So Vabali, normally I do sport, a very hard or medium training before, and then I go there full day sauna, stretching, doing the scrubs, doing journaling on this chill area, having a nice meal because they have healthy food there. So I would say Vabali is the place for full mental, physical, emotional reset. So that's where I spent. Then this gym. And recently, because I'm working on building Nova, my latest company, I'm almost all of the rest of the free time goes to events, organizing events, speaking, podcasts, meeting friends for sports. Normally we meet for sports as well, or going to dinner or some other entertainment activity. Before I used to go a lot to museums and galleries. I had this Jahreskarte, yearly card, which is like €50, and you have unlimited access to the museums and galleries. So I went to all of them, or 80% of them. You can't go to all of them in Berlin. But right now I kind of had enough of this. I was satisfied with this exploration, so now I don't do that. Now it's mostly focus on business, sports and business.
We should definitely go to Vabali for one-day retreat.
Yes.
And, as an organization in Copernicus Berlin, we focus on giving out scholarships for talented youth from mostly post-Soviet countries, but not only from them.
And North Macedonia is also part of
amazing. That. So happy to hear that.
You mentioned that you were studying in the UK with the help of the scholarship as well. Maybe you can share some advice to ambitious people who want to study in vibrant cities, how to get the scholarship, how to achieve these results, and how not to give up on the way.
Exactly. So I will tell the story. When I graduated computer science and engineering, I knew I wanted to proceed my education further because I always I want to have my company. And then I was thinking, okay, what's next? I started computer science. I have no idea how to even write a pitch deck. I had no idea how business works. I was just fresh out of studies. So I said, okay, I want to do masters in entrepreneurship and innovation management. So I did an Excel document with all of the universities that offer such program. And back then, that was 2015-16. This topic of studying entrepreneurship was new. So there were not so many programs. And so I made a list of all university with this program in each country. And then from Eastern Europe, especially from Macedonia, where the standard is low, the salaries are low, I knew that it's going to be expensive to study abroad, even for masters. So I made a list of all the countries that offer scholarships. The challenge was because Macedonia is not in EU, I was not even eligible to apply. And however, in the meantime, I was accepted at University of Nottingham, which at that time, it was in top 100 universities at the Shanghai list. You probably know Shanghai list, the most elite rating of universities. So I was accepted in top 100 University of Shanghai list, but it was overall for 1 year close to 35,000 euro. And I was like, I have to get it. I don't care. I'm getting it. And then I knocked doors for some organizations. They all say, sorry, you're not from EU. We can't help you. You're not eligible. We only support your countries. And I was thinking like, but EU countries, they have better standards. They could afford. And also for EU countries, the tuition was almost half the price. So I was like, why do you have double the price for countries that have lowered the standard and the income? So I was like very unhappy with this circumstance. However, I didn't give up. I kept dreaming about it. I kept looking for scholarships. I kept looking options to work, to make my own money. And then I remember it was 8th of March because it's like a memorable day. I was flying to Dublin for a training, and I received an email how the university where I applied of Nottingham grants me full tuition fee, 100%. And I was just so happy. I was like jumping in the airport. I almost had tears in my eyes. And then I felt such immense amount of gratitude in my heart that I actually could study abroad. And then I promised to myself, one day when I'm very successful, I'm going to have a separate foundation that will offer scholarships for countries that are maybe less fortunate than others or have less opportunities. So this is the plan for next year. Stay tuned.
That's true inspiration for us. We'll stay tuned and look for the updates.
So you want to give scholarships probably for talented students or how you combine this philanthropic character with your professional achievements?
So that's a very interesting question. I think when you ask Violetta, how do you translate inner work to business results? I think the only way to have sustainable business success where you are constantly fulfilled and also the results in the business is when you do something you love to do and it helps other people. That's the only business that's going to be growing sustainably and will going to grow not just in business results but in your fulfillment. And that's after so much inner work and so much different type of retreats and learning about myself. I believe when the person connects with this fulfillment and purpose, that's why have you found your purpose? We're talking about these things like as in joke in a way, and in disbelief, or when there's like a company vision, or when people talk about vision, they talk just as a framework or something to have on slide. But actually, that's wrong. The right way of translating vision to business success is connecting with your purpose, connecting with what you really want to do, what your skills are, what your gifts are, your natural gifts. And once you find this purpose and conviction and you connect with natural gifts, you naturally share the vision and the conviction to the world. And normally when you combine this with helping others and making other lives better, then the result is inevitable. If you ask me, the business grows itself. So I would combine like this. And I think when you share a vision that you want to help others, especially based on your own experience and your own journey, then when the brand grows itself, people connect naturally with you and you don't need to overwork or over marketing. You don't need any of it because people connect naturally to you. So I would say when you combine these two, that's when the magic happens.
So growing business, hashtag network. I would love to know, you coming also from another country, from North Macedonia, how difficult was it from the professional perspective to network here on a professional in a professional network? And maybe some recommendations also how a person who comes without a relative, without any support here in Germany, in another country, how to find that network and support?
That's a very good question. I'll tell this to the camera. Your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth. You can go it with any way, both ways. So as I mentioned at the beginning, when I came, I literally had no relative, no friends. Some colleagues that we studied together that told me about moving to Berlin, but we were not so close. I spoke only 10 words of German. As I mentioned, no visa, no EC-Karte. Barely I could use Uber because, how to start with network? I think how I started my network was to spend, because when I moved, remote office was still not a thing. And we had to go to office 4 or 5 days a week. So your first natural organic connections that happen are your colleagues. So, and because most of us, it was a tech startup, most of us were also expats from abroad, and all of us moved within the last year, let's say. So it was fresh for everyone, and everyone was open to connect. So my first network and my first friends came from the immediate environment where I was, my colleagues. However, as I said, after Corona started, the company could not continue operations. So I had to move company. So then I had other friends that I was building these relationships, but this was remote because of the lockdown. So this became slow. So the first, I would say, 2 years for me for Berlin were very slow start. Many things were not open. I basically didn't even know how to dress for a club after 2-3 years in Berlin. They rejected us because I went with jeans to Sisyphus. So yeah, you learn that.
So many years I'm in Berlin, I still didn't visit any club.
Okay, so not a big miss. Stuff like this. I didn't know like much about art or techno. I didn't even listen techno before. So I had a very slow start. But when I started, like the tipping point, when I said, okay, this just 9 to 5 doesn't work for me. My purpose is bigger than that. Then I started going to conferences. For start, meetups that you can find on Luma or like online, connected to what you do. Because I was a product manager for almost 10 years, I would go to product analytics event, AI in product, like events like this, where I literally didn't even know how to approach for networking. So I had to like trial and error. I would, for start, be a little bit shy. I assume that's normal for everyone. So I would learn how people approach me and what. For example, when someone approached me and we had a very nice conversation, I would mentally note it and I was like, oh, this was nice. I'll use it next time. So next time I would try it. But the first time it's not going to land. So the person would be like thinking you're weird, but that's fine. But then on the second one, you try to approach someone, it's better and it's better. And then it comes naturally to you. And people ask me how did I grow my LinkedIn network to 70,000 followers. It was very organic, very natural. I didn't plan it when I started. So after I got a little bit of soft skills while going to these meetups, I started going to bigger conferences, 500 people, 700. So what I would do, I would take notes on all of the talks I go, and I would pick famous, prominent experts in the domain. I would try to connect with them, take a picture, or just take the notes. And then I would write blogs on Medium or on my LinkedIn of all of the insights, and I would tag those prominent experts. And then, because back in the days, no one was doing this, blogging was not a thing, I would get just followers from there. And then when I started traveling to Southeast Asia, I was writing about my times there. So then would just get organic followers. So basically, you start small, you start testing the waters, you start to get comfortable with unknown people, to approach them, to getting approached, you start feeling safe. Again, safety comes. And then after you're comfortable with the small meetups, then you go to conferences. Then you choose what you're passionate about that you want to talk about, either on blog, can be now videos, reels. And then from there, once you have a decent enough network, I would say if you do this consistently for a year, you are very good to start be noticeable in your domain. And then you are starting to get invited to speak at conference, at podcasts. And after you're invited to speak at 3 conference, then the network effect just go itself. So basically I have podcasts and conferences where I speak until November, all inbound. I didn't reach out anything, but this was after a long time of work. But if it's consistent, if someone is want to go that path and it's consistent and never gives up on this approach, results are inevitable.
That's for sure. Never give up. That's true recommendation. I would love to know you as a women, independent women coming to Berlin, because nowadays and this is quite sensitive topic. I would love to hear also from you as women with migrant background coming from North Macedonia to Berlin. How challenging is it for you was to make a network, to go for your career, build a career being such a successful woman?
Yeah, thank you for the compliment first. Definitely huge impact has the upbringing, especially as women in Eastern Europe, that you need to be the housewife, you need to know how to cook, when I mentioned, you need to be convenient for others, you need to ensure that you make all others comfortable, that you don't disagree with someone because you offended, especially if it's someone, let's say, on a higher position. I think in Eastern Europe and Slavic cultures, and I believe also in your region, that's how the culture and society implies that women should behave or should do or should have their dreams just fit in this stereotype. And I always, as I was athlete and always so active, for me was naturally that I break this stereotype. However, the whole society perspective on women was and still is that women are for home and then they are sensitive, they are emotional.
Is it also in Germany the case?
It is the case. It's probably less influenced as in other countries, but you still feel it. I think there are a lot of initiatives to support women in tech, women in business, and we are pretty successful on having this support for women. However, I think the subconscious background of all the people, especially men, they still have this prejudices towards women. And when I was younger and when I was working in companies, and especially if the leadership is, how to say this not to sound bad, like in the wiser generation, especially from, let's say, Germany, and especially if it's men, I could feel this layer of prejudice that I'm woman. However, that made me even more motivated to go even harder for my dreams, to never give up and to be like, okay, you did not promote me or you did not give me the bonus I deserved, and that's fine. I lost some nerves and some couple thousand of euro or whatever. But the resilience I got and the warrior in me that you invoke, that's priceless. So yeah, thank you for that. So I just reframed this. And then I actually, after so much inner work that I did, I reframed how we see feminine energy and the power of feminine energy, that the power of feminine is not to be strong and to be pushy and to be, how to say, planner and directing energy, but it's powerful without force, which is the most important power. Feminine energy is creator. Feminine energy, I believe, can create, can destroy, especially because it's not with force, but it's power with stillness, with emotion. And I think when we as women learn how to be in control of our feminine energy and be in this grounded, present, gentle feminine energy, that's where real power lies. And when I learn how to use my feminine energy and that I lead with example, but lead with softness and with vision, that's when the real power lies. And when I embody that, I think that's unstoppable. You break the stereotypes, you break the beliefs, you create. And this is, you cannot stop creation of life. And that's how I believe you cannot stop creation of feminine energy.
I admire your energy. I admire your mindset. And I honestly, I'm honored to also have this conversation with you. And I admire also your ability to face these challenges. We could have this conversation going and going for hours, because you have such a big experience and such a good positive energy that I think we and also our audience is love listening it. Just maybe concluding our conversation, what recommendation would you give to a person who is coming from another country, or from a country that is not so much known as, let's say, France or Germany or US, coming from an unknown country with a big hope to become someone important, to have a successful career, but not knowing where to go, how to go, and how to create that career. What recommendation would you give?
So when I was on my second work and travel in the US, the venue I was working was 1.5 hours from New York with train direct. So basically, every time I have day off or have opportunity, I would go to New York. And I was 21, 22 back then. So for me, New York was like the big city, like the dream come true. And this was a different type of experience because I actually, back then, iPhones were just coming up. And back then, the iPhones in Europe were so much more expensive, 30, 40%. And I was a student and I wanted to have iPhone. So what I did, if you remember, back then people were queuing for iPhone.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I did, I tried to book online. I tried to order it online, sold out, everything. And I was like, I'm not leaving US without an iPhone. I was like I have that kind of thing. If I want something, I get it, laser focus. And then what did I do? I asked my friends, someone wants to join me to queue for iPhone. They said, you're crazy. I said, fine, yes, I'm crazy. So I wake up at 4 a.m. from our hostel in Manhattan, because we were students, we could only afford hostel back then. And but back then I knew the Ubers, or they were like either Uber or something like Uber. I don't remember exactly. And it was in Soho, the main Apple where people were queuing, but you have to go early to queue. So I ordered Uber at 5 a.m. and I was so afraid that I had my phone open on Google Maps where he was driving. I was like a kid in New York at 5 a.m. So taxi came. I said, okay, Soho, it was in the app. And I was checking on the maps where he's driving. So everything went well. And then I literally dropped there when the queue was like, oh, no. It was first to the main store on Fifth Avenue, like the biggest one. And then I go there. It was 5:30 by the time I reached, but the queue was insane. It was like, I don't know, 3-4 hours. And the people who were working in Nepal started saying, don't queue, by this queue, by the time we serve this queue, iPhone sold out. And I said, that can't be, I have to get my iPhone. And he said, I tell you a trick. You go not from the main at Fifth Avenue that everyone knows, you go to the Soho one. And Soho is a nicer area in New York. And I said, great, another taxi, Google Maps, checking where he's driving. He dropped me, luckily, because it's not so famous. There were like 5 people ahead. And I start a queue there, and it was now already 6:37. I think they opened from 8. I check, I ask, yes, this is it. We have iPhones, all good. So after hour and a half, they opened the store, and I was like 5th, 6th, and I got my iPhone.
Such a big determination.
Such a big for that iPhone, yeah. But I think I spent too much time on this story. But the point is, never give up. Know why you came here and keep pushing no matter what. So this is the only success advice that works, I would say, with layer of discipline that I mentioned, then layer of inner work, and then layer of connecting with your purpose, and then you're unstoppable. Like, how can something not work, right? And just to follow up on this, why I'm so convinced in this, what I'm saying, is first my own personal experience of overcoming this burnout, identity crisis, my own experience of coming from nothing and growing a successful career. And when I got even more convinced was in the last 6 weeks. I was invited to participate some close events with founders, with investors. I met investors of unicorn companies that are CEOs from unicorn companies that their company is worth 1 billion and they're CEOs. I met over 3 or 4 of them. Then investors of big funds, 150 million plus for investment. And I managed to share my vision, my perspective on entrepreneurship. And we had a good opportunity to talk about stuff. And I was asking, okay, tell us the advice, tell us the secret to success, to owning a billion company. And they all had different angles of what they said, but they all said the same. First, you need to be absolutely convinced in what you're doing, and second, never give up, especially when it's tough. The ones who manage to overcome the challenges in the tough times and to come stronger of it are the ones who will be the next billion unicorns.
Thank you so much for today's discussion. And I think we covered so many topics that it wasn't only contentful in the terms of meanings and advices that our listeners could implement in their life abroad, but also in terms of the energy that was flowing today in our room, the feminine energy, and actually the ambition. And I'm pretty sure that not only us, but our listeners will also feel that through the screens.
I
Thank
really
you
hope
again.
so. Thank you for having me. I hope I'll inspire everyone else to go for their dream. That's the whole purpose that I'm starting my company Nova, to help others never give up and find their purpose, find their conviction, and then go to grab their dreams. So it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm hoping, or I'm sure we will stay in touch, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.